Hi Sarah, and welcome to the mini interviews before the Sleep Summit. How are you?
I'm well. Hi, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So we thought we would catch up so that people get a bit of an idea of who's going to be speaking at the Super Sleep Summit. So thank you for joining me. Could I ask you first just to give a bit of information about who you are and what you do?
Yes, of course. So I'm Sarah Hurst. I'm a nutritional therapist and a coach, and I work in Brentwood and across Essex in various different areas. And I help people with all sorts of health-related concerns. So lots of clients for weight loss and digestive problems, and also stress at the moment as well. Seeing a lot of stressed out people.
Yeah, I bet. And can I ask, do you find that lots of your clients have issues with sleep, or some of your clients have issues with sleep as well?
Yes, definitely. Sleep is such a big area to help people with, because it sort of, the sleep can cause other symptoms, and then you get stuck in this sort of cycle. So just to give an example, if someone's not sleeping well, they might find the next day that they're hungrier and they're craving sugary foods and craving sort of the cakes and the starches and that sort of thing. And then the next day they get stuck in this cycle of eating sugary foods, and then they won't sleep well because they've eaten bad foods, and then each one perpetuates. So it's really important to look at sleep along with the diet side.
Yeah, and also you mentioned about weight loss, and I have heard that if people don't sleep well, it's actually more difficult for them to lose weight. Is that right?
It can be, because lack of sleep can affect the hormones which control our hunger and our satiety, our fullness. So I know for me personally and with clients, if I don't sleep well, I find I'm more hungry the next day. So it doesn't help at all. It's really important to look at the sleep along with the diet at the same time.
And you also mentioned stress, which is something we're going to be looking at quite a lot at the Sleep Summit. I think a few people will be touching on that, but that's such a big one, isn't it? It stops people sleeping. I know for myself, that was one of the causes for me having problems with sleep. And then once you haven't slept well, then you'll feel more stressed because you're more easily irritated the next day. So I would imagine you have both sides, that having better sleep helps people's problems, it helps people's illnesses, and then the illnesses will get better and then their sleep will get better. Does it kind of work like that in a sort of cyclical fashion?
It does. And as a nutritional therapist, I deal predominantly with diet, but lifestyle plays a big factor in there as well, because it's often our habits that dictate how well we are. Food is, of course, important, but there's everything else around it as well, which is why I think this Sleep Summit is great, because I'm there to talk about the diet, but then you've got other lifestyle experts attacking it from all the different angles, which is what we need to do to really get healthy and get to the bottom of whatever our issue is.
Well, and what are you personally going to be covering at the Sleep Summit?
Well, I'm going to touch a little bit on stress and the effect that it has on your blood sugar, because if your blood sugar levels aren't balanced, you're going to find it difficult to control cravings and not eat sugary foods, and then it's going to be harder for you to sleep. Stress and blood sugar and lack of sleep all sort of linked together, so we need to come at all three of them together. I'm also going to talk about stimulants, and so caffeine and alcohol. I won't want to scare anybody off and say I'm going to tell everyone they can never have either of them again, but there are ways you can experiment to see what works for you and what times of day it might be best to sort of stop having the caffeine and that sort of thing. And also when we eat is really important. If you're having a big meal and going to bed shortly afterwards, that's going to affect sleep in a negative way. If you're someone that suffers from reflux or something, that could aggravate that. So it's really important to time your meals correctly as well.
Brilliant, great. Really looking forward to hearing what you're going to be sharing. And I wonder if there might be one tip that you would give people, so before they even get to the Sleep Summit, something you would say that maybe they should bring into their day or take out of their diet or something like that, one thing to keep them going till they can hear your full presentation.
I would say probably the last point that I mentioned is where to start. So don't eat dinner too late make sure you allow plenty of time in the evening for your body to digest what you've eaten, so you're not going to bed with food still there, and it can really be disruptive to sleep. So just make sure that you allow sort of a couple of hours at least before, when you finish your meal, before going to bed.
Brilliant, that's great. Thank you very much. Really looking forward to seeing you on the 7th of May and hearing everything else you have to share as well. So thank you so much for being with me, and I'll let you get on with the rest of your day, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to it.
Cheers, Sarah. Bye.
Bye.